recently made 72 threes in a row. We saw the video, it was posted all over social media. So is this going to be a Klay, I don't want to say breakout season because obviously that doesn't make sense, coming from someone who was, an all-star, an NBA champion, multiple-time champion, stuff like that. And obviously one of the best two-way players in the NBA in his prime. But is this going to be rather a comeback season for Klay Thompson? Because obviously every offseason, every player, or at least every player should be, working on their game. And, most of them are, of course. So in the offseason, they're practicing, they're shooting, they're dribbling, their defense, lateral quickness, all these kind of things. So they can improve for next season or, kind of rehab whatever kind of injury they have from the prior season. But that being said, though, 72 threes in a row is still 72 threes in a row. Now, again, we're talking about Klay Thompson, who is probably deemed as, and I think he is, but, you can make an argument, Reggie Miller, Ray Allen, those guys in there. But, Klay Thompson, somewhere in the second best or second greatest shooter of all time in NBA history. So 72 threes in a row, first of all, I don't know if I could even make two in a row. So compared to me, obviously that's amazing. But even people who, play basketball and stuff like that, I've seen some people say 20 is their record and stuff like that, right? So 72 is an insane amount of threes to make in a row. And I feel like there's just been a bunch of videos this offseason of Klay Thompson, doing kind of workout stuff, which, again, I'm not saying he hasn't done before, but I feel like we never saw this much footage of him. And it just seems like he's on a mission to have a, comeback season, so to speak. So is this the season that Klay Thompson averages 20 again? Because let's think about this. The Dallas Mavericks, of course, have Anthony Davis, who I think should be healthy to start the season. He had eye surgery pretty recently. I don't know how long the recovery time is for his surgery, but I would think that by, training camp and stuff like that, he'd be ready. But obviously Kyrie Irving is out till at least mid-season. And I was even saying, when people are talking about Kyrie, I'm like, he might be out the whole season. I don't think Kyrie is going to rush back. He's not going to put himself at risk to re-injure himself if he is not ready. So I think Kyrie is going to take his time. But at the minimum, Kyrie is out till mid-season. So they have Cooper Flag, of course, #1 overall pick. But he's never been in the NBA before. And that's not to say he's not going to average 20 for his rookie year. But, you don't know what you don't know, as I always say. And you have to learn as you go. So, his first game, he might score 30. And his second game, he might score 18. And it's just kind of as soon as he, until he figures it out, which might only be 10 games that he needs to figure it out, but there's going to be a small figuring out process. It goes for every single player. That's just how it goes. It doesn't mean he's not going to be great. It's just there's always a figuring out process. So we're talking about Cooper Flag, okay, right there. And then again, Anthony Davis. So then who's the next option, scoring option? It's Klay Thompson. You can say Klay Thompson will be the third option to, I guess. Do you think that Cooper Flag is the #1 scoring option? And that's something I just thought about, because obviously Anthony Davis is a proven, 25 point per game scorer, of course, every single night. But is Cooper Flag going to be the #1 scoring option, at least to start? Because, again, Kyrie's not there, so the team is going to run a little bit differently. That's interesting to think about. I don't know. I feel because, they're talking about that they want to compete and win right now, right? So, that's a lot of pressure to put on Cooper Flag to be you're immediately the #1 scoring option and you got to average 25 a night and obviously be efficient and do it correctly, because in order to win, just scoring 25, but if you shoot, 4 for 20 or whatever, I'm just making up a number here, but you need to be, efficient and all these kind of things in order to get wins on the table. So I actually I feel it should be Cooper Flag being the #1 option because they're trying to develop him, but they're trying to say they're trying to win right now. And again, that's not to say Cooper Flag can't contribute to winning right away, but I'm just saying depending on who they determine is the #1 option, But it's interesting to think about. Regardless, so Klay Thompson is the third option at worst in terms of scoring without Kyrie Irving there. So I don't see why Klay Thompson can't, go back to averaging 20, again, at least for the first half of the season, if Kyrie, returns at some point next season. Because Klay Thompson, again, clearly looks like he's working hard in this offseason. But with Anthony Davis, because, he didn't really play a lot with Anthony Davis, if we're being realistic. Anthony Davis played one game after the trade and then got hurt. Not even one game. He played 3 quarters. Anthony Davis played 3 quarters as a Dallas Maverick and then got injured, which is so sad to say, unfortunately. But, so Klay Thompson really did not play a lot with Anthony Davis. And he's obviously never played with Cooper Flagg either. So, and Klay Thompson is still new there himself. That was his first season there. So, he's still learning and adjusting and figuring out how everybody, works and stuff like that. But I don't see why Klay Thompson can't go back to averaging, 20 like he did when he was on the Warriors. And I don't think Klay Thompson shot 40% from 3 last year, which is obviously unusual for him because he's pretty much a career 40% shooter from 3. He might have not hit 40% maybe another year or so, but for the most part, he's a 40% or higher 3-point shooter. Again, second greatest shooter in NBA history. So if he has someone like Cooper Flagg, let's just say, who's going to drive to the basket and kick it out to Klay Thompson, not that that's new for Klay Thompson, but Klay should have space, on this team. He should have space. And it's not that people aren't going to guard him, but he should have space to shoot. Now, the lineup that they're going to put out, I'm, again, thinking about it, interesting. So they're going to put D'Lo, obviously because they signed D'Lo. D'Lo is going to start at point guard for them until Kyrie comes back, if he does. So D'Lo is going to start the 1, and then Klay's at the 2. But now I'm thinking about, Anthony Davis at the 4, which is what he wants to play. So congratulations to Anthony Davis. He gets to play the 4 because the Mavericks have plenty of really good centers. So he doesn't have to worry about that. But so either Derek Lively, I would assume Derek Lively starts, or Daniel Gafford at the 5. So now I'm thinking about it, and actually there's not as much spacing as I thought now that I think about it. Because Derek Lively's not going to shoot 3s. Anthony Davis, they were trying to force him to shoot more 3s on the Lakers, but that's not his thing. He's not really good at 3-point shooting. So there's no shooting there. D'Lo is, he can get hot, but he's a little bit streaky. So, it kind of depends on the night. And then, obviously, Cooper Flagg, again, hasn't played in the NBA yet, so we just have to see how he adjusts. So maybe there actually isn't as much spacing for Klay Thompson because the defense could potentially, I don't want to say gang up on him because, again, if you double team Klay Thompson, you're leaving Anthony Davis wide open and potentially Cooper Flagg. And so I don't know if teams want to do that, of course. But I'm just saying, there may actually not be as much spacing as I thought, especially, again, without Kyrie there. Because then coming off the bench, you have, again, if Derek Lively starts, you have Daniel Gafford, very good center, but he's not going to shoot 3s, of course. PJ Washington will shoot some 3s, but, he's not Klay Thompson from 3. He's actually pretty good at 3s. But, again, we're talking about spacing here, and I'm trying to think who else is coming off the bench. Who did they trade? They traded Quentin Grimes for Caleb Martin. And I'm assuming Caleb Martin is still on the roster, right? So, he's okay at 3s also. But, again, I'm just thinking about it now, and I'm wait, the spacing may not be as good as I thought. Unless someone on the roster is drawing a blank right now. For me, that is, a really, really good 3-point shooter that I'm just, forgetting about. Because that's, 8 or 9 guys right there that really only PJ Washington, because, again, Kyrie's hurt, really only PJ Washington is, the reliable 3-point shooter out of everybody I said. And even then, again, PJ Washington is, good, decent at it, but there are, of course, levels to it. But he's definitely reliable, so I'm not criticizing him in any way. Because, again, Cooper Flagg could also be reliable, but he has to adjust the NBA game. So I just don't know, so maybe the spacing is not great for Klay Thompson, but I do think Klay Thompson would like to get back to averaging 20 points per game because that is basically what he's been his entire career, obviously, especially in his prime with the dynasty of the Warriors. And so he's accustomed to being a top guy on the team. Obviously, number one was always Steph, but he was the second scoring option and it was not even close. It was always Steph and then Klay. And of course, they were the Splash Brothers. And, one night it's Steph hitting 8 threes and one night it's Klay Thompson. Remember, Klay Thompson has the record for threes in a game. What's crazy is how many records Klay Thompson has, by the way. Klay Thompson has 14 threes in a game, which is an NBA record. Klay Thompson has 60 points in 29 minutes. I think that's also the same game where he had 11 dribbles, which is all record. Klay Thompson has the record for scoring points in a quarter at 37. Shout out to Kevin Love. He got 34 maybe 2 years after the Klay Thompson 37. I don't remember if it was like a year later or 2 years later. Kevin Love was really close to breaking it, but Klay Thompson has the record. 37 points in a quarter, which is insane to say because 37 points for an entire game is a great stat line. So, let's remember who Klay Thompson was and, is. Obviously, the injuries have derailed him a bit. And so, is he going to be 2016 Klay Thompson? Obviously not because, the injuries, and it's not his fault, but, he had an Achilles injury and an ACL injury back to back. The two most serious injuries in basketball. The fact that he's still playing as well as he is, incredible. So I'm not expecting 2016 Klay Thompson, and I'm sure a lot of people aren't. But I don't see why he can't average 20, honestly. Again, with Kyrie out, they're going to need scoring. Especially if, Nico Harrison's famous line, defense wins championships, right? You got Anthony Davis to anchor the defense there. You got Derek Lively to play defense. You got Daniel Gafford to play defense. And Klay Thompson may not have the lateral quickness that he did again in his prime to play defense the way that he used to. But like I said earlier in this live stream, Klay Thompson was one of the best, if not the best, two-way player in his prime. It was him and Kawhi Leonard. You could argue between the two of them, but it was them two. Really in a category by themselves. There were other good two-way players, of course. I'm sure you can make some arguments for other players, but it was really a competition in a way between those two. So I wouldn't be surprised if more people said Kawhi. It was close. But the point is, so defense wins championships, right? Well, Klay Thompson should still be able to play, decent defense. Maybe not locked down, 2016 again. I just bring up 2016 because that was the year where he was going crazy in the playoffs. Game 6 Klay against OKC. I will always remember that game. That is one of my favorite playoff games of all time. If you don't remember that game, 2016, Game 6 against OKC. Go watch it on YouTube. Go watch it. Go watch the highlights. Go see what Klay Thompson did. I think he hit 11 threes. He went nuts. And that was when the Warriors were down. Well, at that point, they were down 3-2. But that was when they were down 3-1. They came back to beat the Thunder. But that Game 6, that's kind of what started the Game 6 Klay, his nickname. I don't remember if there was another game before that, but that was the game that started his legacy of Game 6 Klay. And then, of course, multiple Game 6s later, he did stuff like that again and again. But, that was, the game. And so, that's one of my favorite playoff moments of all time because it was insane what he was doing. He just, all he saw was the basket, literally. So I say all that to say, Klay Thompson, again, I think he should have a bounce back season. And again, it's not I think he averaged 17 last year or 15. So it's not like he had a bad year. But of course, the season didn't go as planned. Obviously, it wasn't his fault. But Luka gets traded mid-season. So that kind of threw everything off for everybody. Imagine you're Klay Thompson, right? Klay Thompson leaves the Warriors where he spent his entire career. He was drafted there. He was one of the biggest parts of the dynasty. He wins 4 championships there. And he leaves for the first time ever in his career to go to the Dallas Mavericks, mainly to play with Luka. Like, Luka was the main attraction. That is why players, wanted to go to the Mavericks. At mid-season, they trade him. Like, Klay Thompson was like, he had to be like, come on now. Like, really? This is so unfair. Like, it is what it is. But he was probably like, what? I just left the team. Like, we know, again, what Klay Thompson did with the Warriors. And he left to go to play with Luka, and then Luka gets traded mid-season. I mean, I'm sure the entire organization was like, or the entire roster, whatever, was kind of like shocked. But I'm just saying, from Klay Thompson's perspective, he must have been like, are you kidding me? Like, this is crazy. Somebody said Giannis to Warriors confirmed. I don't know if Giannis is going anywhere yet, because we haven't heard anything that, like, he hasn't said, I want to leave Milwaukee. And we know that he really loves it there, and he is obviously trying not to leave. He's looking for reasons to stay. And I give the Bucks credit. And I said this when they did the Damian Lillard thing immediately. I'm like, listen, if you want to talk about a team who goes and has gone all in for their superstar, look no further than the Milwaukee Bucks. They have exhausted every single option that we didn't even know was possible, because none of us thought that the Dame thing would happen. Like, stretching and waiving $113 million has basically never been done before. It has never been done before. The largest before that was like $30 million of a contract or something like that. Like $113 million. So that is how much faith, or how much they want to keep Dame. Because remember, they gave up all their assets, or most of their assets at the time, to get Drew Holiday back when they won the championship, of course. Because Giannis, I guess, wanted Drew Holiday, and they won the championship, and so it worked out. But, like, then Giannis wanted Dame, and they did everything they possibly could, and they got him Dame. And Chris Middleton I don't know if he wanted Chris Middleton traded, because I feel like Chris Middleton, like, it really was just because Chris Middleton couldn't stay healthy anymore. That was really the issue. It wasn't his game, so to speak, because when Chris Middleton was healthy, even when he was coming back from injury, he still helped the team. So they're like, okay, let's figure out how to get a healthier player. They get Kyle Kuzma. They have zero assets. They have zero picks. Their 2026 pick, if Giannis leaves, is going to Atlanta, which could be a lottery pick. It's New Orleans or New Orleans or the Bucks pick. It's a swap. So whichever, team has a better odds or better pick, that's the pick that Atlanta gets. So they're feeling good over there because they're happy. But obviously, if Giannis moves, that pick is very valuable. But I'm saying, like, the Bucks have done everything, literally everything they possibly, like, they have no more moves, everything possible to keep Giannis happy. And I don't know if this roster is a championship contender. And again, I think the Bucks have done and tried everything possible. So I don't blame them, because Giannis is that important to the franchise. And I think Giannis obviously sees how hard they're trying, which is also attractive to Giannis, because they are putting in every single ounce possible to make him happy to stay. Like, that makes any player feel good, that the team is trying so hard to keep you. Like, they'll do whatever it takes. So I guess we'll see. Maybe the trade deadline is something to look for Giannis, because maybe he'll start the season and kind of see if they're winning games and stuff like that and making progress. And then if not, maybe he'll request a trade, but we'll see what happens with Giannis. So thank you guys so much for watching this live stream. I hope